podcast. I'm so excited to welcome Howard Lau to the show. Welcome to the show, Howard.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
How is life in Portland?
Well, it's sunny, it's not raining. We are preparing for the rain that's coming. I'm gonna enjoy the sunshine, going camping with my dog and my girlfriend this weekend. So everything is beautiful here in Portland.
Oh, nice. Where do you guys camp?
This weekend, I think we're going up towards the beach, fingers crossed. But it's going to be busy. It's going to be really busy. We're trying to stay
Mm.
away from everybody. We have to reserve campsites and all that. So fingers crossed. It's also a little surprise. I think it's because it's my
Oh.
birthday's coming up in this in September. So my girlfriend's kind of planning this. She didn't want to let me know too many details. She just said, "Hey, don't work this weekend. We're going on a trip." So I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Oh, so fun. Okay, so tell me this though. I've never been to Portland. Are there beaches like
Mhm.
super close to you?
Yeah, yeah. So Portland, so I'm born and raised in Portland. And so if you drive about an hour and a half west, you get the coast, right? So you got like Cannon Beach, you have Newport, Lincoln City, you have all the beaches. If you drive, you get Bend, you get like the desert and the beautiful, Central Oregon. You drive 3 hours north, you get Seattle. So we are like in the middle of best of like all four directions. We get a little bit of everything.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have it on my bucket list to go out there, but obviously nothing's happening in 2020 really in regards to that.
Yeah, definitely try to come for the trials.
Yes.
2021 trials or pre-classic or the new Hayward Stadium. Please come.
Yes. Why was that not on my agenda anyway before COVID? I think I did. I had talked to some friends about going out there for the trials and I don't know why. I don't know, nothing had moved forward with it and then, March came around and everything stopped.
Right. Well, this is your official invite from
Okay.
me. Please come to my home state. Enjoy Tracktown, USA
Okay, 2021, it's happening.
2021.
Okay, so you're a photographer and we're going to get into that. But
Sure.
before we get into that, I asked you before the podcast, like, should I call you How or Howard? Can you explain your name and all of that?
Yeah, so I go by both. I go by Howard Lau. I go by How Lau. How you most people know me as like How Lau Photography, which is great. So my Mandarin name, I'm Chinese. My Mandarin name is Lao Guo Hao. Lao Guo Hao. So it sounds like how Howard. And it's like so. My mom was like looking in the dictionary. She came here from China in like the late 80s, like, what's a how-ish name? And they're like, why not Howard? And she's like, I like that, Howard. And so everything flows really well. In my Chinese name, in the characters, they picked a specific character for my name, has the three dashes for like water.
Mm.
They chose that one because they want, my heart to be free like the ocean, nice and wide. And it's great because my dad was also a swimmer. So there's like so many like different meanings into my name from the Chinese side of it that got kind of transferred to Howard. And I know like a lot of people are like Howard is like a last name, but Howard is a first name for me.
I love the name Howard. I'm super into names. People that listen to this podcast have heard me talk about it a lot. I'm obsessed with names and I love that name so much.
Great. Awesome. So Howard, how Lau, either one, you can find me, you can call me that, whatever's easiest for you, Lizzie.
So good. Do you have siblings?
I don't. I'm an only child. However, I did grow up in a house with my cousin for about 9 years. So we lived together in like a house of like nine in
Wow.
a house. So yeah. So I'm older by him by like a few years. So I moved out with my parents. We probably moved out there when I was around 13, around middle school. But we lived together. It was a big, big family. It was my grandma, my grandpa, my uncle, my aunt, my two cousins, my mom, my dad, everybody in this
Wow.
house. And so even though I don't have a sibling and I'm an only child, I do consider him as like my brother.
Oh, for sure. Okay, so what brought your parents over here to the United States?
Just looking for a better life.
Yeah.
In the late, 80s or so, they're like trying to decide, should we stay in China? And my dad was a businessman there. Um, should we just stay in China and start a family there? But they were thinking about, I wasn't born yet, so they're like, what about this future son? Should we stay in China or not? My parents thought long and hard about it, and they decided to move to Portland of all places. Not New York, not LA, Portland. And it's simply because my grandfather, he chose Portland because his like friend was like, you should go to Portland. And they're like, okay, what's Portland? I don't know, but we'll go. And they arrived here and it was like a ghost town. And I remember
Mm.
growing up being like super quiet, super empty, nothing like what Portland is today. So they just wanted a better life for me. And I'm really thankful that they made those sacrifices. So, I'm born here. Um, yeah, just really that better life. So I mean, that's the story for most parents anyways. Just
Yeah.
want the best for their kid.
Do you speak Mandarin?
I speak Cantonese.
Okay.
So my parents are from Guangzhou, which is like the southern part of China.
Okay.
So I speak Cantonese. I know some Mandarin. My parents can speak both, of course, um, and English. So they have another language over me. So they're speaking like three dialects. I can only speak like two. I was very stubborn, very stubborn. It's actually one of my biggest regrets. I didn't learn Mandarin. I was like adamant, like I'm gonna speak Cantonese and English. That's it. And
Uh-huh.
my parents are like, please speak Mandarin. It's gonna help you so much in the future. And I said, no, I want to speak Mandarin. I was like this little kid, I was like 4 or 5 years old, right? And now as like a 28-year-old, I'm like, darn, I totally should have learned Mandarin because that would have been, I mean, that's amazing to know like three languages,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So that is my regret. But don't tell my parents that because they're gonna hold it over my head for like ever.
I know they always say, and you have to do it like when you're young because that's the easiest
Right.
way to learn a language. Our little neighbors next door, their grandparents are Polish, and the dad is Hispanic, and so these kids speak English, Spanish, and Polish, and they're learning another language at school. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys don't realize how cool this is right now. You are 8 years old and you are trilingual.
Exactly. It's amazing. I'm jealous. I'm jealous of these kids for sure.
Oh
But
yeah.
you know what? Good for them. They definitely should. And my future, kids will definitely be, Chinese, English, Spanish, or whatever they want to learn. They should learn it for sure.
Yeah, it's so cool because you hear like their grandparents, they only speak Polish to them, and then their dad comes over and
Hmm.
he only speaks Spanish, and then they only speak English at school and at our house, and all the other neighbors. So yeah, it's really cool. Okay, so talk to us about your history with running. I know you're a hurdler, and it's so
Yeah.
cool now that you like get a photograph all these professional athletes, like you're combining your two passions of running and photography together. So how did you get started in the sport?
Yeah, so I grew up playing soccer. Track and field was actually not really a thing in our community, in Portland. I guess that's a really big part because my parents just didn't know. I mean, they didn't know that much English. They just came here. They knew soccer. I mean, soccer, like everybody knew soccer or football, right? So they had me play soccer from like the third grade all the way up until I was a freshman in high school. And that's actually when I got introduced to track and field. I remember the track coach coming into my PE class saying, "Hey, we want people to coming out to the track club, run for us." And I literally said, "How far do you have to run? I don't want to run anything less than a lap or anything further than a lap," is what
Uh-huh.
I said. And then I realized how far a lap actually is. It's 400 meters. Then I realized that I am terrible at anything more than 100 meters. So really, I should have said, I don't want to run anything further than a straightaway. And I love to jump. I'm always active, naturally, very bouncy. So I went to the jumps coach to try triple jump, long jump, could not get it. And also, I hated the sand. I did not want any sand in my shoe. I was like, I don't know. And someone said, why don't you try the hurdles? And I said, what are the hurdles? Because again, keep in mind, I just got introduced to track and field, never heard of it, never really even watched it. And so I did the hurdles. Naturally, the three step came. And I said, okay, this is great. I'm going to use it as a cross training for soccer. I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing. It ended up being I was way better at track than soccer. I
Uh,
made it to stay. So, I never made it to varsity soccer until my senior year, but I made it to state my freshman year in track. So clear, um, and then
Sorry,
I
you just
got
cut out
really
a
interested
second.
in trying to run. Oh, no problem.
You
Let's
cut
make
out right
sure it
when
comes
you start.
back.
Yeah, you
Is it
cut.
coming back now?
Yeah, you're back now. You just froze for a minute.
I'm
You
back
cut
now.
out when you said clearly, like you were saying so
Oh,
clearly.
yes. Clearly, I was way better at track than I was at soccer. So, started my junior year, I was like, maybe college is a possibility. Maybe running in college is a possibility. I didn't really have a coach to put me on that path. So I kind of called around cold calling. Honestly, that's what I did. Kind of called around
That's
coaches
cool.
like, hey, can I run for you? And so I was left on red by my sprint coach up at UW. Clearly he was really busy. I think it was his first year there. But I didn't give up. I called the head coach, which is a distant coach, and I said, "Hey, can I run for you?" And he says, "Sure. What's your time?" And I, said my time. And he said, "Okay, I'll get you in touch with my with the sprints coach, and we'll see how you do." So I walked on as a preferred walk on to the University of Washington,
Okay.
and it was a big change because for the hurdles it goes up from 39 inches to 42 inches, so an extra 3 inches of hurdles, and I didn't grow 3 inches. I was like 5'9", like a buck 30. I was really tiny, so I didn't
Yeah.
grow any. I didn't grow any bigger from that senior year to freshman year. So I really struggled with that. Finally hit my groove my juniorish year and graduated from the University of Washington. Made it to the top 10 list as one of the top 60-meter hurdlers, which was great. And that's really my track background of track and field in terms of running. I'm old now. I'm about to
You're
turn
not old.
29. Oh, my body feels old, but maybe one of these days I'll come out for the Masters. Maybe we'll see, Lindsay. We'll see.
Oh, I love it. Well, two things with that. I just
Yeah.
interviewed Marisa Powell, coach at University of Washington. She's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But she came on after you graduated, right?
She did. I have a story about her. So I listened to that podcast.
Oh,
She is
awesome.
amazing. Her energy is so positive, um, so welcoming. Probably one of my favorite coaches. I mean, she's a legendary coach. And I think the biggest thing is that, she said that she's not on social media. And
Yeah.
again, I'm the guy that says like, hey, can you get on social media? Because I take all these photos of you interacting with the athletes. Can I shout you out? And
Yeah.
she is amazing. So again, I'm on team. Let's get her onto social media.
Totally.
Um,
Have one of the
but
the
she
runners manage it for you, Marisa.
exactly. So I always ask her when I see her. I was like, "You on social yet? Because I can send you these photos." Her energy level and her just positive is you just really want to run for her. You really want to run for her. And she, and her husband, Annie, are just amazing coaches. Actually, my classmate from Cleveland, Daniel Wynn, was coached by Andy at the University of Oregon.
Oh, cool.
So, he told me nothing but good things about the Powells. And so when they came to Washington, I was very excited to meet them. I think it was last year's 2019's Pac-12 championships in Arizona when I really saw in person like why like people love her so much. Like there was a little mishap with the men's 4x1. Someone dropped the baton. I mean, it's very normal for you to be disappointed in yourself. Hang your head low, beat yourself up because it was your fault. It's your fault. It's all you put this blame on yourself, right? And I just watched her walk over there, pick this athlete up, and they walked away. And I'm like, wow, no wonder people love you so much. And so I was able to capture that. And yeah, she's awesome. She's awesome. I love her.
That's
Two thumbs up.
so cool. How cool too that you get to experience those moments firsthand, but also like capture them. You know?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite things being one of the photographers here. It's one of my favorite things because, yes, I joke that, I'm 29, I'm old, I'm not running anymore. But this is a great way to stay connected to the track community by doing photography, right? I have the best seats in the house. The credentials definitely help. Infield access definitely helps, but finish lines, we'll talk more about that stuff. But yeah, best seats in the house is definitely right there, capturing everything, and then also creating an image that people look at and can feel like, wow, this is great. I've captured a lot of images of Coach Powell, just radiating this positive coaching vibe that hopefully I can kind of mimic and take because I coach as well, so it's like I really want kids to look up to me like that as well. What a goal! What a coaching goal to have to look up to Coach Powell.
That's so great. Yeah, when I interviewed her, we had to like stop because we had she had a meeting, but we figured we'd be done in time. But it was so good, and she had so much energy. I was like, I cannot rush these last 15 minutes. Like we are gonna have to get back on here in like 3 hours, and she did. And yeah, her energy was just contagious, and I wanted to be like best friends. I wanted to like go hang out at her house with her and her husband and have a cocktail or something.
Yeah, well, when you come
Well,
over to the
yes,
Pacific
there we
Northwest,
go.
right there you go. There you
Oh,
go.
well, okay. So the other thing, I've never interviewed a hurdler, so this is exciting.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna put that on my bio then, first to be interviewed. Yeah, hurdles is like my passion. I coach high school hurdlers now, back at Cleveland, kind of trying to give back to the community here. And I still run with them, hang with them as best as I can. I love it. I think if there is a masters event that I will do, it will be the hurdles, which is weird because usually people go, let's do 2, 4, the
Uh
mile,
huh.
like let's go run a marathon as you get older. I'm like, you know what? I think I still have enough bounce to produce like maybe a quality like 100 meters, but only with the hurdles. Only with the hurdles. But also Alan Johnson is a fantastic hurdler. He has like all the masters record. I mean, he was still running low 13s
Mm.
and whatnot as like in his 30s. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to touch those records. That's okay. But yeah,
Is he retired
but yeah,
from the
he's
Masters?
way, yes, way retired, way retired. But yeah, usually you interview a lot of distance people, right?
Yeah, and I've been kind of like doing a little bit more track. I guess I think that I strayed away from track a little bit because it intimidated me because I'm not as educated on track. I'm a marathoner myself, so I naturally am super curious about marathoners, and I also kind of know how to talk about it a little bit more. Back in the day, it's crazy how time flies so fast. I did interview like Michelle Carter and Aretha Thurmond, so I had like
Yeah.
some field event people on the podcast. But I just had Tiana Bartoletta on the show, so like
Mm-hmm.
I am kind of trying to get a little bit more in the track space, and also I just realized, I just have to say it's okay if I don't know everything about track and field. It's still fun
Right.
to
Right.
interview these athletes that are on the track.
Absolutely. And right there, I know this is a podcast you can't see, but she is right there on my board, right there on the wall there. She is amazing, Tiana Bartoletta. What an amazing jumper. Got the opportunity to listen to her at the Nike Coaches Clinic this year before COVID. But she is amazing. And she just turned, it was her birthday a couple days ago, I think.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I saw that, and yeah, she's such a powerful speaker as well. Okay, so you have captured some amazing images. You've been to some really big events and been able to be a part of that. So why don't you kind of share with us how this all started? Like, have you always been interested in photography? And when did you
Hmm.
realize, oh, I can actually like combine these passions of running and photography?
Yeah, it was actually around my junior year at UW when I realized that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pick up a camera. That was about it. I'm gonna go pick up a camera. Um, I was a little coming off of an injury. So I was trying to figure out like what can I do to like help the team, right? So yes, I gotta get myself better first. If I run fast times, if I go and win races, of course that's gonna help my team. But like what else can I help my team with? Um, Now, I noticed there weren't a lot of photos being taken. I mean, that's just facts. I mean, there's so many kids. The photographer can't take photos of everybody. But everybody, this is about like 2000, yeah, 13-ish. Instagram was coming out. Do you remember like
Mm-hmm.
Instagram with like
Oh,
the
yeah,
borders? Yeah, that's old school stuff. So I said,
totally.
okay, you know what? I'm just gonna take a photo. You can use it for your Instagram. So I just sprayed as many photos as I can. There was like no direction, but I still got a couple of good ones. One in like 1,000, I would say. I was like, oh, this is pretty good. Then I started realizing, hey, you know what? Maybe I should watch a couple of YouTube videos and maybe I should really start doing this for reals. Really focusing, learning the exposure triangle, and learning, how all this works. So that was about my senior year of college, 2014. I started like learning a little bit more. I didn't really pick it off up until April of 2015 at the Stanford Invite, literally on the plane, boarding the plane to going down from Seattle to Stanford. My teammate goes, you know what, Howard, you should start halal photography. And I said, you think so? And he's like, yeah, you should just do it because why are you putting your photography stuff with your personal stuff? And I said, okay, let's do it. I created halal photography at the airport,
Uh,
heading down to Stanford, and posted the Stanford photos from that meet. Again, I was an athlete, right? So I was running at that meet, and then I took some photos. And I posted on halal photography, and it got like I think like 10,000 like hits off of Facebook or something. And I said, "Whoa, that's so cool! Like so many people are like like looking at my photos, and people enjoyed it, of course." And at that point, I was like, "Okay, all right, you know what? It's time to learn photography." So picked up more books, more videos, and from there, it's still even just a couple of days ago, picked up a book on photography and started, doing other things because I do have some big plans coming up for 2021 for the trials and things like that. So that's how I got started. It was kind of like a need, helping my teammates, and then also feeding a passion. Like I said, it was like best seats in the house, right? You're always like there at the finish line, at the start. Um, and then of course you have to like kind of pick up the etiquette too, right? So now once I graduated, I'm no longer that athlete. I'm a photographer. It's no longer okay to go and talk to the athletes because you're interrupting their flow. They are
mm,
here to run. They're here to race. It's business time. It's not hangout time. If they say hi, of course I'm going to say hi, and I'll wave and all that. But I'm not going to go out of my way to talk to these athletes because they're here for business. Let's not make them lose focus. And then afterwards, after you run your race, you get a big PR. Come see me because I probably have a photo for you, and then we can chat then. So learning these like small etiquette things is kind of like how I picked up the rest of photography. And now it's 2020, and photography is a big part of my life.
yeah. Okay, so I have so many questions about the event. So,
Yeah.
yeah, like so
Yes.
say I'm looking at your list of events like Beijing 2015, Portland 2016, London 2017, the Olympic trials. Do you like so who do you apply for credentials to be the photographer on set scene, and then like are there
Hmm.
how many photographers do they allow in? What does that look like?
Yeah, so that's going to be different for every event. So for trials, because it's here in the United States, It's a little bit easier. You definitely have to have an agency or like a newspaper or some kind of, social following or whatever to kind of go in. They just don't allow freelance photographers to allow freelance photographers. The point is you know, you're not there to take up space. You're there to do a job as a photographer. You're not there to, as the kids would say it, do it for the gram. You can't just be there for Instagram. Okay. You got to have some kind of assignment. So having an assignment, having that background is going to help you, get in. For the international events, such as the World Championships in London, they kind of figure out, okay, how many credentials can we offer to the United States? How many can we offer to whatever it may be? They have these certain numbers. So you have to fit that, criteria. The Olympics, I've yet to do that one, the actual Olympics, but that one's even more strict. You have to have an agency, you have to fit those criterias, but you can't just apply just to apply. You can't just be there to be there. And again, that's going to be different for every single event. COVID has changed a lot of things, not just in the track and field photography wise, but just photography in general. Usually we're crammed in there like sardines, like at the finish line with lots and lots of photographers over you. You can easily fit, I would say, maybe 30-ish photographers at the finish line at Hayward or so, where you have people laying down on their belly, you have people kneeling, you have people sitting, and then you have people standing. And that's not without any other additional like platforms. So really, really crammed in there. That's not going to happen with COVID.
Okay, question about that though.
Yes.
How do you decide who stands, who kneels, who's on the ground?
Yeah, so everyone's going to get some kind of like finish line. I'll use the Olympic trials as an example. So everyone's kind of free to roam, within reason. The front remotes, the really, really flat ones, those ones, you don't get in front of those. You're not supposed to get in front of any kind of remotes. That's like a big no-no.
What's a remote?
So the remote cameras.
Oh.
The remote cameras are like on the finish line on the ground.
Okay.
So they fire independently from your other cameras. Okay. So for example, I would set up a finish line shot on the infield, and then on the infield, like by the finish line, and then I would be on the other side of the finish line looking straight ahead at them. So when I press my camera, I'm getting 2 shots at a time.
Okay.
2 shots at a time. And a remote camera, since we're talking about remotes, at like London, I had to set up a remote camera. That's how I got the shot of Tiana Barletta. I couldn't get into the pit. So what I would do is set up a remote camera hours before the actual event, set it on the ground, set up my focus, set up everything, get it warmed up, put the remote onto the trigger, onto my actual camera, then leave the area once they're actually jumping. And then I fire it remotely from, 50, 75 feet away from people, because that's another thing. You talk about getting access as well, right? So some people can go on the infield at some events and some people can't. So it's also depends on like how big you are, right? So like Getty is like the number one. It's the gold standard. Getty photography. I mean, they're always going to be on the infield. They're like the black vests. They always got on the infield. They have first dibs on everything. And then it's trickle down, right? And then who else is left? Go figure it out. I think in London, I was in the finish line pit, crammed in there like a sardine. I was sweating. If you leave, by the way, that spot is that's it. I mean, like someone's gonna fill that spot. Yeah. And so this was during the 400, and Wade Van Nicker was going to run in the South Africa. Photographer came rushing in and he looked lost. He was shooting another event. He was just like, can I get in there? Trying to cram in between my head and another photographer's lens. And I just said, hey, you know what? like, you can have it. And so
Aw.
Roger and I became friends. And I said, you can have it because I'm not shooting anybody from South Africa, and he is.
Yeah.
So it's better to kind of play nice with other photographers and be kind, because you don't know when, down the road that you're going to need that spot. So hopefully someone in the future, another photographer, will see me needing that spot for a USA athlete and be willing, maybe not to give up their spot, but at least make room for me so I can get that spot.
Yeah, for
So,
like a certain
so
capture.
exactly. So it's part access being given by the agency, the organization. Part of it is just other photographers, be there first. But it's usually first come, first serve. Last man standing,
like
at the finish line.
Okay, so question about, you say like you need to have, obviously you need to have some credentials. Like if you're going to apply to have credentials at the event, like you need to have some sort of like clout. Like these are the things I've done or whatever. But when you say you want to go into it with an assignment in mind, do you mean like, hey, Runner's World has hired me to take photos at this event for some articles they're going to do, something like that, so that the people putting on the event know you have like a project in mind?
Correct. Absolutely correct. That is 100% accurate. So pitching projects, helping certain agencies will definitely help you get approved. If you don't have any assignment, if you just say like, oh, I'm freelance, I mean, that could be anything and everything. And so they're not going to really accept you. You could, again, I'm not speaking on any kind of organization. You could make it.
Yeah.
But it's better to have that, hey, I'm going to be shooting for so-and-so, this athlete. And then actually, if you want to get you want to get infield access, that's really when it comes into play. So at pre-classic, you want to tell them, I would like to request an infield bib for the 800 at this time, because I am shooting blank, and you get 15 minutes in and out. And so that is going to help you to get approved. If you just say, I want the 800, Jeff is going to say no.
Yeah.
Give me a reason.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's so cool. It's so interesting to learn all this. Okay, so I have another question about like athletes getting access to photos from you and things like that. So does like an athlete buy a package from you, or like how does the athlete then have rights to your photographs? Because a lot of times when I want to like promote an episode on this podcast, for instance, I now ask the athlete, do you have any photos we can use that you have the rights to? Not just a photo that you've been tagged in, but a photo that you own the rights to. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so that's always an internal conflict of that I have, right? Because on one hand, I was a former student athlete, and photos are very cool to see yourself running.
Totally.
I would love to see photos of me running, and I kind of made it my day one goal that student athletes should, or athletes, just not even student athletes, just athletes in general, should be able to get photos, right? But that was coming from an angle where I too was a student athlete. I was not a professional at that point. I was just a guy with a camera who happened to run. So that is different, because it's different because as an NCAA, I just can't give athletes photos because it's going to be a violation of the NCAA, right? So NCAA, if you're listening to this, I'm not doing that. So that's another thing. I just can't give photos just to give photos. At the same time, I can't sell certain photos because I'm not there to sell. I'm not a salesman. I'm there to cover it for editorial uses, right? So it's going to depend on literally every single event at every single venue, on every single athlete. I have something different.
Wow.
Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. If I post it on my Instagram and I have my watermark on it, yes, I'm going to give you the shot to use because I don't want you screenshotting it and ruining my quality.
Yeah.
Exactly. Here you go. Because even if I say no, people are going to do it anyways. And so let's build a good relationship, For some businesses, of course, that's a different story. We try to work out a deal, of course. Photo credit is helpful, but it doesn't
Doesn't
pay
pay
the
your
bills.
bills.
Right. Exactly. So it's like it's an evolving thing. It's a very controversial topic as well within the photo community
Uh-huh.
because some photographers are like, no deal, you pay me X amount, and that is the price.
Yeah.
I get that. I truly do. At the same time, when someone doesn't have the budget, then that is the truth. I think everybody in the world wants to make a lot of money. That's no question about it. No question about it. But when there's no budget, there's no budget.
Mm.
And I think I've worked well with enough companies where they're not going to, not pay me. They'll do their best to pay me. And in turn, of course, I will do my best to provide the best that I can do. It's like a two-way street, right? So it's hard to answer that question because it does change at literally every venue, every athlete, company, and honestly, it might change again. In 2021 with new rules, with copyrights and things like that. I know there was a suit against Instagram and all that happening. So it's a very touchy subject.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. Well, yeah, because I totally changed my language when I asked athletes for photos. And I actually just stopped putting photos on my feed of athletes, like of promoting episodes, because
Mm-hmm.
it started getting really stressful for me. Because I used to just ask athletes, hey, can you send me a picture that I could use to promote this?
Sure.
And then I ran
Yeah.
into something with a photographer and one of the athletes, and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, she gave me the picture. I didn't know that she didn't
Right.
own it." And so now I just say, "Do you have the rights?" I always ask that question. So I guess my question with that is, like, yeah, like college athletes,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have the money to pay for
No.
fancy photography, and not all pros do, but some of the pros probably
Mm-hmm.
do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
could someone just be like, hey, I want to buy a year-long package with you where I get like 3 photos a month, or something like that, knowing you're going to be at these
Sure.
3 events?
Yeah, absolutely. Some do. Some companies do. Some teams do.
Or like,
I
yeah, you're
really
their agents or something.
exactly, and I really appreciate that for sure. Because it helps a lot with my travel. Either it's on a plane, it's in a car, or whatever it is. I really appreciate. Yeah, I'm gonna be at these meet. Can I provide a service for you? That also helps because as an athlete or a team or whatever it may be, you want to hire the photographer on the front end, not on the back end.
Mm.
On the front end, then the photographer, like I was saying, you can position yourself correctly for the best angle. So the research I would do is so and so is in lane 7. Okay, well, if they're running in lane 7, do I want to be on the infield or do I want to be in the stands? Do I want to be on the corner or do I want to be on the side? So these are like little things I have to think about, right? If I don't think about these things and I don't have an assignment, I'm just going to start shooting whatever it is. If I happen to get the image, I happen to get the image, right?
Mm.
Sometimes just because the heat winner won and your athlete is, let's say, in like 5th place, doesn't mean they ran a bad race. Could have been a huge PR, right? Could have been a huge PR. But if I set myself up at the finish line, looking down the home stretch, the best I can do, unless they start going 5 lanes wide, I'm only going to get the person in lane 1 and in lane 2, because
Mm.
after they cross the finish line, what do? They put their hands on their knees because they're exhausted, and they stand there blocking anything, that I have. So my job, knowing that, would be I would like an infield vest. So
Mm.
that way I can get more angles for you, for your team, your company, your athlete, whoever it is, so I can, further better the images. Otherwise, like I said, you're just going to get a finish line shot, which is fine, but your athlete's going to be way back there with everything being blocked off. So
Wow.
these are the things I think about.
Yeah. So cool. Okay. Tell me about the most recent event you did, the big friendly. What was going on there?
Yeah. So the big friendly happened here in Oregon, not just Portland, because we went all over Oregon. Portland Track was trying to provide races in during the pandemic safely. So very limited numbers, not released to the public, no fans, very on the down low. It was like almost like underground, all within, of course, state laws and all that, following all that, but not the typical track meet. Everyone wore masks, got tested. Everyone, I remember not even, I think it was not even Craig Engel's girlfriend could get into the meet. That, I mean, that is like, they were
That's
doing everything.
intense.
It is intense. It is definitely intense. There's a certain amount of numbers there that Portland Track had to, be under. So we went to, well, now that it's over, I can say it. Went to
sure.
like Jesuit High School. We went down to the Mackenzie River Track. We went over to Newburgh High School. So like we went all over Oregon, trying to put on these races. And of course, we have to, if we move out of Sonoma County or different counties, we have to adhere by their rules, right? So Portland Track was just trying to put races together so athletes could run. We saw a lot of amazing races, and it's one of those things. It's like, what could have been for Tokyo this year? Everyone was so fit. I mean, records would definitely have been broken, right? So Portland Track was trying to provide an outlet for the athletes to run. And at the same time, of course, provide the fans with some races. And then in turn provide some photographers with some jobs. So they were trying to put these events on. They did. They put on 5 races over the last 2 months or so. Yeah, I'd say, mid-July. In the last 2 months, putting on these races together. Like I said, I had to wear a mask. I had to change my gear, right? So I changed my gear. So instead of getting the very close and wide stuff, like, really next to the athletes, I chose for the very long telephoto lenses so I can stay away from the athletes. So I'm just, again, I am just in the background. I'm trying to cover the event. I'm not even here. Trying to provide images, of course, the best to my ability. So that was that was the big friendly 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They're all on YouTube and they're free. So
fun.
You can watch them.
So who hired you for that?
Okay. Those ones, it was a mix. It was, let's see here. Tempo magazine hired me.
Okay.
For sure on getting the images, providing me covering my basic expenses, of course, going down there, which I appreciate. So Tempo, some teams helped me as well.
Okay.
And then I also was there for Portland Track itself, because Portland Track is a nonprofit. So I felt like it was my due diligence to provide them some images as well. So it's like, again, that combination of multiple people hiring me, because I am a freelance photographer, not just with a specific company.
That's so cool. You know what? One of the things I love about your Instagram so much is I have learned about athletes that I wasn't following or didn't know much about, that you've taken pictures of. And so it's just fun to see that, because sometimes it's hard to follow. There's so many runners out there. I'm curious, who is someone that you have photographed, that you're just like, why isn't this person covered more? Why aren't we hearing this person on podcasts? Who do you want to hear from?
Wow, that's a great question. I've shot so many different athletes. Okay, you know what? This one came into my DMs because I just posted on my story. Again, Lindsay can see because of my wall here. I got some frames for some of my favorite shots up for the office in time for the podcast.
We're putting this on YouTube, by the way, though, everybody.
Really? Okay.
I'm putting full episodes on YouTube now, so you guys
well, there
can
you go.
see.
So you can see.
Yeah.
I would say Sandy Morris.
Okay.
Pole vaulter.
Yeah.
So I don't think you've
No, I
interviewed a
haven't
pole
had her.
vaulter. There you go. So
I have
there's a
had
shot of
Katie
there.
Najee. I can never say her last name right, but I've had Katie on.
Yeah, okay. All right. So Sandy. The shot took of Sandy was in 2016 at USA's, and it was her first time that she broke 16 feet. She did a backflip to celebrate her win. I caught that photo.
Oh,
And why that's special for me is because that was my first like big, if you will, quote, big like, event. All the photographers left. They were covering Cunningham in the high jump. I mean, again, photographers can only cover so much, right? So they were like over there covering for the high jump. I realized like I don't want to crowd their space. I'm just gonna sit here and cover the pole vault because again, I don't want to like herd mentality and follow everybody, right?
uh-huh.
So I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna cover the pole vault. No one's around me, and I happen to get this shot. She won. She's so excited. I snapped this photo. I got a photo of her celebrating with her dad. Snapped the photo. We got Sandy and I, of course, I was like, here's a photo, and she was really happy with it. And she just DM'd me today, this morning, explaining that that photo also meant a lot to her because that was the first time she broke 16 feet, first time she won. And quote, that was the first time she felt like the door really opened for her. That moment
Ah,
opened for her in the
so
career.
good.
So I was able to capture that. And so I would say that Sandy Morris would be an athlete I'd like to know a little bit more about. I think it also goes to just field athletes.
Mm.
I think field athletes just don't get a lot of attention um, in general as much as they should. I think they are very talented, of course, and so they should get interviewed a little bit more. And then I think World Athletics. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you know,
I
but
mean, I probably don't know.
they're changing how the jumps are being worked now, where like not the longest jump will win. So
Okay.
there's some kind of like new rule that's happening in the field community, and I kind of heard about that, but I think if it was interviewed or written as much as those like vapor flies or like new shoes, then I'd be clearly being able to tell you, Lindsay, exactly what that rule is, right?
Sure.
So apparently there's a really big rule that's happening, and not a lot of people are talking about it because field athletes is, I guess, not getting talked about. So
Wow.
I would say field athletes, Sandy Morris. That's my answer.
I last week interviewed Christian Taylor, and
Did you?
I could have asked him because
Yeah,
I'm sure he would have
there you
known.
go. Yeah, yeah. So it's a new rule, and I just don't know too much about.
Okay. That's so great. Okay, so Sandy Morris, my youngest son's name is Sandy, so special place in my heart. And you know how I feel about names. We already talked about that.
Yes, exactly. She is so nice. She is so nice, just a genuine person, and she's an amazing athlete. I'd love to hear more about her.
It's so cool too that you got that moment because I'm sure there are so many times when an athlete does something really cool and they're like, oh, I wish that I had that captured somewhere. And a video is not the same as a picture. It's just not.
Correct, correct. I mean, you can display the moment on like an iPad, I guess, and put it on loop,
Sure.
you know? But that's why I kept to photographies. I want to create a piece that people can print, and display in their house proudly, and say, "Wow, that look how nice that piece of like art is." Because I think running is art.
Mm-hmm.
It's very beautiful. The form. I don't know, the Portland 5000, like the Bowerman guys running. It looks photoshopped.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because they're just running on tempo. They were just like on beat, trying to hit that pace perfectly, stride for stride. I think that was like the perfect, I guess, you know, definition of like on pace, on beat, because their stride was like literally perfect. Well-oiled machine. So, I mean, I like my photos to be art. I
Mm-hmm.
shoot an idea of like, this is going to be art. This is going to be displayed somewhere. Hopefully one day I have a gallery show or something like that. But that is the goal of when I shoot something, is not just to get the photo. Yes, capture the moment, fine, but also create like art.
Yeah.
That is in running. In running, that's the thing.
Okay, the other name I wrote down when I was going through Instagram, I feel like I'm going to say his name wrong. Karen Clamott.
Hurdler.
gold medalist.
Clemens?
Yeah.
Oh,
Am I saying?
Karan.
Am I saying it?
Clemens.
Okay, you
Yeah,
say it.
he
Quran. How do you say it?
Clemens?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yes.
maybe wrote down the last name wrong. What's his name?
Karan Clemens, I think.
Quran Clemens. Okay.
I think you're talking about are we talking, yeah, I think we're talking about the 400 hurdler, right? I think.
I,
Is that what you wrote down?
I'm gonna look him up really quick. I was all over his. He doesn't have very many pictures on Instagram.
Mm.
Hold on just a second. Here you are. I can cut out. I'll cut out this pause in the actual.
In
podcast.
the actual thing, yeah.
Yeah, in the actual podcast. Now I want to know though because I texted his information to Emma today, and I was like, "Hey, I think this guy would be cool."
Yeah, he's really cool. I got to meet him in LA. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Karan Clemens.
Quran Clemens.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Watch us both get the name wrong.
Well, no, it's your profile says Quran Clement. Clement.
Really? I don't know. I have to double check now.
Well, that's what his Instagram says. His profile says
okay.
Clement.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to re-say that and then we'll go from there. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the other person from your Instagram that I looked at that I thought this person would be interesting is Quran Clement, who is a 2016 gold medalist in Rio in the 400-meter hurdles. So,
yes.
Yeah. What do you know about him? Do you think he'd be a fun interview?
He is awesome. I got the chance to fly down to LA pre-COVID to like watch the hurdle mechanic group coached by Coach Boogie Johnson. So they have arguably the best hurdling squad. Multiple Olympians, gold medalists, silver medalists, national record holders, all of that. And he was so nice. And I mean, from one side, like I was telling you, I was a student, like athlete. Hurdles is my thing.
Yeah.
So watching these athletes run hurdles as a coach, as an athlete, amazing. As a photographer, capturing these Olympians, doing their thing is amazing, right? So I was just in awe. I got to, just cover them and really happy how that trip turned out because it was kind of like an impromptu trip. And I got to meet him and a lot of the other hurdlers. Yeah, he'd be fun. He'd be fun for sure.
All right, so Sandy and Karan, those are the two.
Yeah.
Those are the two people that I'm pulling from your Instagram that we're going to
Sure.
interview.
Sure.
Oh, I love it so much. Okay, so I also noticed from the Big Friendly, you did a caption about shooting at night, and you posted like you kind of like took it from a different angle and like made sure you just had a really solid plain background. So talk to us about how do we make an image look good like that?
Yeah, so my quick tip is, of course, pick a clean background.
Okay.
Right? So you don't want the background to be too distracting, different colors, things sticking out of people's heads, signs. I mean, unless those are signs that are like Olympic rings, right? No one really cares that it's a $5 Domino's pizza sign. Like that doesn't add to the image. So I try to find a clean background. I think the image that you're referring to is like the really dark black background, but the athletes are lit up. Okay, so I found a clean black backdrop, essentially, which are the trees really far away, not the stadium lights. So I positioned myself so the background would be those trees way back wide. And this is like at 8 o'clock, right? So it's really late. Then I waited for the athletes to cross the finish line when they're doing their laps. The finish line is lit up by the finish line light. The light is used to help with the timing. So the main source of light that I used was the finish line light. So I underexposed everything, not over, I underexposed everything. So the only thing that would be lit would be the athlete crossing that finish line. So it's a different image for sure. Very different, very unique. I loved clean backgrounds. I always look for that. That's like the step one, look for a clean background, get low to the ground. I like to make athletes look like a lot more powerful than they are. So like the down step is not a very like attractive photo because they're down stepping, their arms are coming in and they have, that face that they're making. as an athlete, again, this goes back to student athlete, right? As a student athlete, I don't want to make some stupid face. I know
Uh-huh.
I'm winning. I know I'm about to PR in a way, but like I don't want to make a stupid face. More times than not, most people prefer not to have a funny looking face. We can control that in a race, right? So my camera, thank you technology, is able to fire so quick, like 15 frames a second, kind of fast, where I can capture multiple, shots, and the way I can position it, so no one's getting double chins,
Hmm.
no one's doing down steps, everyone looks very, almost like majestic when they're doing their strides, very powerful. Those are all the things I look for. And you don't technically need the best camera. I mean, I started shooting with the kit camera, but those, I would say, two things: clean background and getting low is going to create a better photo than standing up in a very crowded backdrop. I
Yeah.
would say that, yeah.
I love it. Okay, what are your dreams for the business? What are your dreams for your photography business?
The Olympics. I
Yeah.
mean, the Olympics is definitely like number one. LA 2028
Mm.
just dropped a new promo video that got me really excited. I did try to attempt Tokyo, but I missed the deadline by like a few weeks, not knowing that they accepted and closed the deadline like 2 years, 2.5 years before
Oh my
the actual thing.
gosh.
Yeah, it's not something. So Worlds is about a year.
Okay.
Okay, or maybe even a little bit less than a year. You kind of have to figure out like when to apply. That's usually like about a year out. The Olympics is about 2.5, is what I found out. And again, this was back in like 2018, right? So I was
Wow.
like, darn, I just missed that. Um, that was definitely disappointing, but that's okay because no photographer is really going to be able to get their first, go at the Olympics. It takes literally multiple rounds of the Olympics to get chosen. So fingers crossed for, LA 2028. Paris would be cool. We'll see. But I'm like, I'm 29. I'm still in my late 20s. I have time to achieve those goals. I like to think of myself and not get, too beat up as like sushi masters. Those guys spend decades just like washing rice, literally like decades just washing rice and making rice. But when they're in their 70s, they consider that master level. Like that's like top level. So I have a lot of time at the same time to get that goal. So fingers crossed, Olympics. That is the goal. Hopefully, I can cover that for an agency or a company or something. That'd be really fun.
You are not missing the deadline to apply this time.
No, I don't think so. Now with COVID, it is a little different. With COVID, it is a little different because I don't know how many they can accept now. It's going to be tighter than ever. They used to cram photographers in like sardines.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, you only get so many photographers
I
that get to
mean,
go.
yeah, it's crazy. I often think like even in like 4 years though, will it be the same again? Like it's so
I
hard
don't
to
know.
know.
Right, exactly. And so I don't know, but what I can do is just work on today,
Yeah.
build relationships, improve my craft, and my time will come.
So, I know you coach as well. And then I also saw on your website that you do like weddings and senior pictures and stuff, but like do you prefer is your preference like sport and athletics?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think, I mean, I can definitely do senior photos, and I do a lot of event work as well. Before this pandemic, I was shooting a lot for like Nike on the Nike campus because it's just a quick drive over into Beaverton. Um, but if they're working from home, there's no events on campus, so they don't need an event photographer or anything
Yeah.
like that. But those can be really exciting too because you have athletes visiting, really cool, fun events on campus that I can cover. But nothing beats the winning, that gold medal feeling at a race, right? So I prefer to shoot athletics because I also know it the best. I do my research and I know exactly where to be, what's the best angle. If they're running the hurdles, I know it's going to be a 3-step, so I can kind of time it correctly and all that. So I would say yes, athletics would be my pick. And yes, I coach. I coach as well. Like I was saying, I coach high school for Portland Public Schools. This is my 5th year as a hurdles coach, and then I also coach elementary school kids with Runner to Runner. It's a youth running company. I was telling way in the beginning of the podcast, I didn't get that opportunity to run in elementary school or middle school because weren't any programs around. So my goal now is to provide that, service, hopefully for the next generation of elementary school athletes. You never know, right? You never know.
I'm confused though because in Portland it seems like it's such a big track town like that there
I know.
wasn't opportunities.
There weren't any.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
when I was growing up, it was baseball, football, basketball, and soccer. I mean, that still kind of is, but like there was no track that invited
Like a club
us.
team or
No
something.
club team, nothing like a
Yeah.
running program. Now, keep in mind, the elementary school itself had running,
Yeah.
right? As like Run for the Arts as a fundraiser. I won that, by the way. I mean, I was like, this is so fun. I don't understand why. I mean, no one was like, you know what, you should try track. And then
Yeah.
at that point, I would have at least looked into what track was, or like, internet really wasn't a thing, so it was dial up. So I would have like at least called around and was like, hey, does anybody want a running club? That would have been fun. But yeah, there wasn't for how Prefontaine and Tracktown USA and all the history in Oregon for youth elementary school kids in the 90s, early 2000s when I was growing up, there weren't any
That's
as
wild.
available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's wild. Okay. We're going to do into podcast questions here.
Okay.
What is one thing professionally or personally that you'd like to do that you haven't done yet?
Olympics.
Olympics, yep.
Olympics. Yep. Hopefully, get that crossed off
I,
in my lifetime.
I figured that was what was going to come out after what we
Yeah.
literally just talked
Yeah.
about. What's an accomplishment you're most proud of?
I would say London World Champs 2017. I was an insurance producer for State Farm, 9 to 5, day in and day out. It was just
Wow.
so much. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this risk, fly over to London and cover this
So you just went
World
on your own. You
Championships.
were like, I'm just going to go.
We're gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna apply for it. I'm gonna shoot for. I found somebody that needed photos, and I said I'm taking my vacation and I'm just gonna go because that 9 to 5 was just so grinding and it wasn't something I wanted to do. I mean, insurance is pretty boring.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, right? Writing car insurance. You want to talk about car insurance? Let's talk about car insurance. No one wants to talk about car insurance. So I wanted to feed into my passion. So I just, I did use a lot of my savings.
Yeah.
I saved up for it and I just went for it. And I'm glad I did. So I'm really happy I took that step. That opened up a lot of doors. It taught me a lot about how photographs and photographers like kind of work at a championship level. Like speed is king. Like you need to be fast. You need to be efficient with everything. So London 2017 was what I would consider my most and proudest like accomplishment.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of just a testament to like you have to put it out in an investment on yourself to make things happen. Like you're not going to just get hired by all these people to shoot at this really prestigious event. Like I'm going to take a chance on myself. I believe in myself. It's going to cost me some money. It's going to cost me a lot of time. There's definitely risk involved, but a lot of times that's how big things happen in people's careers. You got to take a risk on yourself, a chance on yourself.
Absolutely. Pay yourself first.
Yes. Okay, what's the best, most recent book you've read?
That one, so let's see here. The most recent one, since it's Studio Anywhere. It's talking about how you can make a photo studio out of unconventional places. I have a project being dropped this weekend.
Okay.
With some stuff. So with Portland Track and things like that. That's all I'll say. It's going to be dropping about this weekend. To be a little different as well. So inspired by this book. It's called Studio Anywhere, a photographer's guide to shooting in unconventional locations.
So we should follow your Instagram to look for the announcement?
The announcement, yes. It will drop. It will be some stuff will be dropping this weekend along with Portland Track.
Because this information will drop before this episode airs. So if you guys go to his Instagram, you will see the announcement somewhere
Yes.
around September 2nd or something like that, or September 5th.
September
or whatever.
5th. Yeah, 5th this weekend. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, exactly. So if this podcast comes out,
It'll be a few
they
weeks.
should be on. They'll be on there.
Yeah.
There it is.
Okay, awesome. I love it. Okay, who's someone fun, motivating, or inspiring you want to have coffee, tea, or cocktail with?
Oh, I just watched Bruce Lee's 30 for 30 be water. So I'm gonna say Bruce Lee. He died way too young. It was a very inspiring martial artist person, coming from China. Coming from my parents' hometown, actually. So,
Oh, cool.
I would love to chat with Bruce Lee. Oh, and a University of Washington. He went there for a year too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's
Random.
I would say Bruce Lee. Yeah, I know, right? So Bruce Lee for
cool.
sure.
I love it. Speaking of martial arts, I just signed my boys up to do karate once a week.
Oh yeah.
We're doing remote learning here
Uh-huh.
in Indiana and at our public schools, and so we have neighbors, and we just hired someone to come into the backyard and do it in someone's backyard at recess time.
Fun.
Yeah,
Fun.
they've never done it. I'm excited. Okay, so I think that it's just one message to send to the world. Let me just make sure. Okay, yeah, I think it is. Okay, so here is your last question. What is your one message to send to the world?
Vote. I'm going to say vote. If you have not registered to vote, vote. This election, local elections, all the elections, register yourself to vote. It's more important than ever to go out and vote.
That's a great message. And this will definitely come out before the elections, but they're creeping up fast.
They're creeping up fast. So I know it's hard. I know it's tough. But yeah.